Are you ready?
All right, let's roll. I would like to call this meeting of the Oldham County Board of Education to order. It is May 23rd, 2022. And we are at the Arvin Education Center.
It was.
It's not working. It was on then. Technology is a beautiful thing. All right, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Smith, will you lead us, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Our first item of business is to approve an agenda. Superintendent, do you have any corrections or additions, sir?
Just draw the board's attention to some supplemental materials that's been provided to you for this evening.
All right, thank you. So motion to approve the agenda, please, made by Mrs. Hundley and seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor? And that's 4-0. Let's go straight to the instructional session, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to invite Mr. Eric Davis to come forward and share a review and update from our drug report for FY22.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me tonight. So this is the annual May report that I provide to the board on drug and alcohol incidents and suspensions for the year. So it's a two-sided document. We'll start on the side with the red writing in the top left corner. This is just a breakdown of what you see with 104 incidents this year that span across all schools, middle all the way up through high school. So as you can see, the majority of these, which is not unique to this year, but have been the possession and use of marijuana and THC. The majority of those are THC, most of them using dab pens or something of that situation. And you can kind of see the breakdown. They're pretty consistent proportionally with the population at each school. And all the way across, you can see by grade level, also by month, and then broken down. We'll get to the year-by-year comparison in a little bit more detail here in just a moment because that's on the backside. But then also some other year-to-date offenses that are charged, and just to let everyone know kind of how that works, we do not get into the criminal side of it. That is left up to the SROs. So when you see that there were 39 out of 104, that's based upon the SRO's decision in what he or she feels like needs to be charged criminally. And those all would go to the CDW's office based on the age of the offender. One thing I do want to point out, and I'm not sure if Ms. Carter is in the house or not, but there were more second and third time offenses this year than we've ever had before. Of the 104, there were 16 that were either a second or a third time offense, meaning they had already had a first time offense as a student and therefore were placed at the alternative school. So Ms. Carter took on 16 new students for drugs, and then also you'll see in the top left corner any of the ones that are in a row with red writing means either that they came before the board for an expulsion hearing or they were placed by the superintendent based upon the sale or distribution of a drug. So total, there were 24, if my math was right, placements at the alternative school due to drug violations. So before we go on to some longitudinal data, does anyone have any questions I can answer about this particular side?
I go.
Sir.
I was looking at this one by school, and as far as the middle school, I was just wondering what South Middle's doing different than the rest of them.
That's a great question. I'm not sure if there's anything specific. You know, honestly, the more that come in, I mean, every school has their methods of, watching restrooms and making sure that any types of things are run down. I know Mr. Hunsaker at the middle school certainly does a good job along with the rest of them. I think it's really just, whether they were there, present, and not caught, or the kids are just aware of what's going on in terms of watching those bathrooms and things. That's where the majority of these end up occurring. So I'm not sure if there's anything specific about South that's happened. I don't know if Mr. Hunsaker's in the house wants to address that or not, but in this situation, I have not seen anything more done at South Middle than at OC Middle.
Thank you.
Sure.
It
Okay.
has always been my opinion that there is a margin of leeway with all of these figures, because it just depends on, to some degree, being at the right place at the right time.
Correct. All right, if we'll flip it over, I do want to kind of go through this a little bit. If you all remember, in the 2009 school year is the first time that we put in place the Renaissance program, which is what we use for first-time drug offenses, where they come to the central office to have a meeting with me. So 88 of the 104 offenses this year were first time, which means all 88 of those went through the Renaissance program, which means they meet with me with a parent and then attend Buckner Alternative for a minimum of 1 day, where they complete a chemical dependency assessment with one of our providers, and that provider then gives the parent a recommendation on treatment, which could be from just some education on drugs all the way up to potential hospitalization if that is needed. So we did serve 88 students in that this year, and you'll kind of see, if you're looking longitudinally, that is the most that we have had in a school year since the 2009, in fact, more than since we've been tracking them.
Right.
And what I did is I compared that to the last quote-unquote normal year we had, which was 2018-19, and you'll see 100% increase. That's a lot. This year was challenging in terms of the drug offenses we dealt with, but I also think there's something to be said that we also have paid a lot of attention to that. We've paid a lot of attention to the restrooms. We have implemented at North the use of the Halo sensors, which you will hear a little bit more about later, I believe, from Mr. Bohannon. There's something in your packet about a proposal to place those in multiple more bathrooms across the district that send alerts to administrators that there is a vape going on in the restroom. And so those have been very helpful at North, I think, from not only catching but a deterrent, which is our goal was to prevent these from happening to begin with. But then when they do that, we're making sure we're follow up, not just from a punitive measure, but also to provide support to the family and student if needed. So 100% increase of total students, and then 126% increase from 2018-19 on the number of violations, from 46 to 104. I think that's also an indication that there's a societal issue right now. This is not just school related. Kids have been through a lot the last couple years, and we might be seeing some of the factors of COVID and everything that kids have gone through the last couple years. So
Right.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, board members? I agree, Mr. Davis. I think that issue is complicated, and
It
we
is very
can't say it's due to one thing or the other. It's nice to have you with us in your more traditional role,
Yes, it
Mr.
is.
Davis.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
If there are no other questions,
I could-
Superintendent?
I hate to,
Mr. Dodson?
on this Halo system, how far out we looking at that?
You talking about for installation?
Yeah.
I think that'll be up to the board in terms of if and when you approve that, then I think Mr. Bohannon's here, he can certainly answer logistically how long. I don't think it takes long to implement. There is Mr. Bohannon and I, we met with Trey as well, just to talk about, how long it might take, what needs to happen wiring wise, things like that. You have anything you want to add to that?
With the board's approval, it would take place as soon as possible, depending on supply chain. As soon as we get a hold of it, lead time, we'll be putting them in. So I would look for those to start showing up in bulk this summer, if not all of them.
Thank you.
Other questions? Superintendent, anything to add?
I would just share with the board and just recognize our student services, our principals, and even Ms. Carter working with students and one, trying to be preventative, but also trying to be responsive in this uptick in needs or issues that have occurred with our students that you see with the numbers that are provided. So a lot of work is, and lots of meetings and conversations to not just respond, but how we can continue to support and provide services for our students.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
you.
We are going to move along with the treasurer's report. Ms. Anderson. Good afternoon.
Everybody. All right, today we are looking over the treasurer's report for the month of April. If we start on page 4, you can see our cash situation. We began the month with $52,878,000, and we are ending with $47,506,000. So on the governmental funds, which is primarily the general fund, we've got $6 million in receipts, $12 million in disbursements, which is typical for this time of year. Under food service and daycare, our receipts are exceeding our disbursements for both of those funds. In the next section, we've got our bonded construction funds, and you can see that the bulk of our activity is the East Oldham Middle and the Buckner Elementary renovation, which is at this point primarily East Oldham Middle. And then the final section is the investment. On the following page, we have each of our fund balances, and this totals the $38 million that was on the previous page for the governmental cash. On the following page, we have our historical actuals comparison report. Really, everything is kind of where we are expecting it at this point. Nothing really new. We'll be getting our final payment for the capital outlay and building fund revenue in the next month or two, as expected. On the following page, we've got the detail of all the revenue accounts. This gives you the historical actual trend. And if you will keep in mind that in fiscal 21, we did have that SEEK replacement grant that took $2.1 million out of revenue on the general fund side, but also on the expense side too. And if you have questions about how that was, how that played out in revenues and expenses, you can see page 20 on that detail. On page 9 of your report, you know, we did the Munis upgrade last month, and they broke a report. So you're seeing something different this time. On page 9, you've got the expenses for the month, and it's in the categories that we usually show, but all you can see is the current month expense. So you can see the salary grouping, the employee benefits grouping. So this is a known bug in the system, and I'm hoping they'll get it fixed, but in the meantime, I'll come up with some other way to present this information to you. So it is not nearly as helpful as what it normally is, but the information for the month is there if you have any questions about that. And if we go to page 17, we have the same issue on this expense report as well. The column to focus on is this month-to-date expended, which is kind of in the middle of the report, and it will show your expenses by function for the month of April. And then on page 20, we've got those, the detail of the SEEK replacement grant to help you understand your expenses a little bit better. All right, page 21. You guys have a replacement page for that. Something bizarre happened with Jane's computer, and this is, isn't that weird?
No wonder.
So the information is not new from what you've been seeing before, and Jane has provided you the proper document. On page 22, we have our balance sheets by fund, and on page 37, we have our income statements by fund, and that concludes the treasurer's report.
Yes. Questions or comments, board members? All right, motion to approve the treasurer's report made by Ms. Nykirk, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. Would you walk us through bills and claims, please, Ms. Anderson?
Yes. On page 95, we have bills and claims. We have 1,421 invoices for a total amount of $7 million for this, bless you, this time period since our last meeting. And on the following pages, you can see the details of the invoices that we've paid and comments for some of those. And that concludes bills and claims.
We are rolling along. Questions,
moving
board
quickly
members
today.
about bills and claims? Oh, it's a great report, Ms. Anderson. Motion to approve, made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, and that's 4-0.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
We are ready to approve some meeting minutes, board members. The first minutes are from April 25th, 2022, and we were all present. Are there any comments, questions, corrections? Motion to approve, made by Mr. Dodson and seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. We had a special called meeting on May 12th. Any corrections or additions? Motion to approve, made by Mr. Dodson, seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, and that's 3 with 1 abstention. Thank you, everybody. Superintendent, we are ready for the notice to the Board of Personnel actions, sir.
Yes, just draw attention to the board of personnel actions as presented for consideration.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I will make note that we celebrated with our retirees just a few days ago, and we had 20 certified members of the staff that retired and 14 classified, if I got those. If I didn't. 17 certified, 25. Thank you, Mrs. Webb. So anyway, it was a nice celebration with those people and their relatives. Any other comments? All right, thank you, Superintendent. We are ready now for our consent agenda, I believe. And there are several items, A through J, in the consent agenda. Your recommendation, sir?
Yeah, recommend to approve.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, please. Made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. We have one superintendent report. Dr. Radford.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to invite Ms. Corson to come forward and share with the board a draft policy revisions.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. As you probably noted from the enclosure, all of the proposed policy changes are related to the recent legislative session. Some of them, some of the legislation was passed as late as April 14th and will go into effect July 14th. So we have to update our policies to be in accord with the new legislation. So
Yes.
are there any questions about any of the?
So we haven't actually seen these policy corrections before. Let me ask if there is any discussion. Any questions, board members? Comments? All right, so we are going to take action on these at the next meeting. Thank you, Ms.
You're
Corson.
welcome.
All right, I now need to decide whether we're going to proceed with our student showcase or proceed with the rest of the agenda, because we have moved along so quickly here. What's your pleasure, Superintendent?
Consider moving to the showcase.
All right. Let's if we are ready, are we ready, Crestwood, to move ahead with our student showcase? Yes. Oh, I can't wait to meet these guys.
They are a delight. So I'm Beth Wallingford, the principal at Crestwood, as you know, and I'm so excited to showcase our amazing students tonight. We've compiled a short video, as you know, and we highlighted the ways that our students have demonstrated leadership as readers, writers, scientists, and engineers. But since this is a student showcase, I thought it would be better if you heard directly from them. So I did bring 2 of our current 5th graders with us to get things started and introduce our video.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Wallingford.
Hi, I'm Sophia Santos. I'm a fifth grader at Crestwood. Thank you for inviting us to share this month's student showcase.
And I am Luke Calvert, also a fifth grader at Crestwood. In our student showcase video, you'll see a lot of ways that Crestwood students have taken on leadership roles this year. You'll see me in the video as part of the state championship STLP team. My team created a podcast called One Word. My favorite part of the program was recording, because you don't know what people would say or do.
And you'll see me as a part of our Reading Buddies Literacy mentoring program. My favorite part of being a reading buddy was getting to read to them and seeing them react to the events in the book. And now it is time to share some of the great things that have been happening at Crestwood. Enjoy the video.
Thank you, Sophia and Luke.
When you become a Crestwood Cougar, you will be welcomed, loved, celebrated, and challenged. The moment you walk through the doors, you get to choose a high five, a wave, or a hug.
Ukulele. Awesome.
It is important for students to feel loved and safe in order to academically achieve beyond their potential. We ensure students' social, emotional needs are met so they are able to thrive in all areas. Each day starts with a morning meeting, and often there are end-of-the-week VIP meetings like this one. It's not all about the warm and fuzzies, though. Students have many chances to shine as readers, writers, mathematicians, scientists, and leaders. But don't take our word for it. Check out our students in action.
Hi, I'm Lena. And I'm Henry. I'm going to choose the Short Section leaders this year at our Crestwood STEM Lab. We went to 4 meetings this year to talk with Miss Ayesme about the anatomy of a shark. We also dissected the shark in the meetings to see what each part did and what it looked like. Our job was to answer questions with the other classmates and show them what each organ did and what it looked like. My favorite part was probably getting to see the baby sharks, and in my shark it also had its last meal in its stomach.
Anne's face.
Since my shark was not special, Miss Ayesme cut open the brain and we got to touch that. Hi, I'm Luke Calvert. I am a part of the One Word podcast. In this podcast, each episode is about one word in history, science, current events, and sports. Our school team went to the STLP state competition, and our podcast won the K-5 state division. Listen to this snippet of episode 2, Justice. Here, I'm Luke. I'm Henry. And I'm Colby. Welcome to One Word. In each episode, we talk about one word in history, science, current news, and sports. This week, our word is justice. Justice means a just behavior or treatment. Okay, guys, do you believe in ghosts? I believe that ghosts do the same thing as us, and they're exactly like people. They just live in a different reality, kind of. They're just people we can't see. I don't believe in them. I think they're completely fake. I agree with Henry. Well, in 1896, Elvizona Hester Shue had a mysterious death. It was later proven in an autopsy that the cause of death was childbirth.
Hey, I really like this hook and part of your story. Next time, you can make it better and add more details to what they're saying. That is giving me advice because I can point out things and then tell them what looks good and what isn't as good. So I really like it, and be a peer editor because I like to look at other people's work.
name's Sophia. I'm a 5th grade reading buddy, and I like to come to the library and read to the kindergartners. My name is Evan, and I'm and I like to read 7. Favorite thing this year in STEM was we were coding this robot, Dash, and our challenge was to try to get snowballs in one corner of a square. And it took us a long time to finally get it, but we finally have gotten it. The time that we had not gotten it, we took many tries, and the time that we did it, we capitalized on our mistakes, and that's how we got it. We also, I will use this in later life because I would like to be an engineer. We like to be challenged. STEM is the best.
show. Every day is a great day to be a Crestwood Cougar. When you become
Every day. Every day is a great day to be a Crestwood Cougar. Sophia and Luke, you did a great job with emceeing for us this afternoon and also appearing in our video. I saw both of you. It's like seeing somebody famous. Any questions or comments, board members?
It's just amazing what our young people can do. Totally amazing.
Well, I'm also a Crestwood Cougar.
Oh.
The old school that used to be there.
You are a very
You guys are lucky.
big.
You have a newer, shiny school to go to. Great job. Love it. Love what you're doing at Crestwood. You have done a great job, and it shows very much so.
Well, I just want to say also, our extracurriculars got back up and running in January. So the art and music night, STLP, a lot of the coding even happened over a shorter period of time. So I can't say enough about the teachers who took on those extracurricular responsibilities. They did an amazing job.
And pulled it together.
And I think we need to send you all the link to their podcast because it's pretty amazing. So
I
we'll
think-
send that in your email.
I think you should.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
anything you want to add to Luke or Sophia? No?
Where are you all going to middle school?
All right.
Great.
Get ready, South
Also
Oldham
trying.
Middle School. Well, that was an awesome student showcase. Thank you, Ms. Wallingford and guys. Mr. Williams, we're going to proceed with our public expression, please. You ready to read?
Yep. Hold on, give me a second.
And we have four persons wishing to address the board this afternoon. Mr. Dodson's going to read our policy that guides public expression.
The board will designate a portion of the meeting to hear public comment regarding the areas under the board's jurisdictions. Persons wishing to speak shall sign in with the registrar and review the policy on making public comment. The board chairperson or designee will read aloud the public expression guidelines. Speakers should register by signing the sign-in sheet upon their arrival to the meeting. The board will call upon speakers in the order in which they have signed in. Speakers shall not exceed the time limit allotted by the board. The board will allocate time based on the number of individuals registered to speak. Public criticism of individual staff members and individual board members is prohibited. Concerns about individual staff performance should be addressed with the staff member directly or his, her immediate supervisor and/or the board chairperson respectively. Public expression is not a question and answer period. Any question expressed by the speaker will be noted with directives for appropriate administration to follow up. The board, however, reserves the right to respond when appropriate or necessary. We have 4 people. What's your all's pleasure? 3 minutes?
3 minutes
3
is
minutes.
fine.
I'll keep time.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. You want to go ahead and begin then? Thank you, Mr. Dodson.
The first speaker is Linda Staskowski. Did I get it close? Oh, Stats.
Welcome, Ms. Linda.
Welcome, Linda.
I am Linda Stasiowski. I'm here as a parent and as a new substitute teacher. I'm also a previous teacher in Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. I'm here to address the teacher salaries and just to ask you to consider a couple things, that it makes more sense to consider the steady increase rather than to skip it and try to make it up later. Our goal as an exemplary district should include retaining quality staff. The consistency benefits everyone, especially the special needs community, which I'm part of that as well. It reduces the additional training time needed. Their skills increase with the years of experience. Team building and relationships increase within the schools and builds the collaboration and the synchronization so the school works well together. Teachers that go above and beyond do it because they feel valued and want to give their best to their students, something that's impossible to get a do-over the next year. You can't. You can't have a bad teacher and think, oh, we'll make up for it next year. You can't miss stuff for that year and make up for it. Teachers are constantly in the spotlight, getting pressure from all different angles. 10 times what you were feeling last year with the mask mandate, they get it constantly. It's affecting the number of people that are going into the teaching profession. We all want to feel appreciated and valued, and when you do, you give more of your heart. The PTO and PTA staff lunches and treats are wonderful and appreciated, but it also needs to come from your employer. If our tax base is the problem, we need to work with the officials in planning and zoning to find a solution without just falling on raising our taxes as the only option. Please consider the other options and as a community with other officials and not just spin our wheels on this and shortchange our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stasiowski.
Thank you for becoming a sub.
Yes.
Ethan Moore.
Good afternoon.
For months, some of us on the Recruiting, Retention, Induction Committee have brought up the need for the tuition policy to be revised and changed. Currently, we have to pay $3,268 per child for those of us teachers living outside the district. Assuming my 2 children will stay in OCS throughout their 13 years, I'll have to pay just under $85,000 for the course of their schooling. So I'm asking you, if we're truly serious about the retention and recruiting of quality teachers, I do think tuition should be made free or reduced, as it's an easy perk to create. And if you think about it, it really hits on both pieces that we're working on in this committee, recruiting and retention. If there's a concern that more teachers could take advantage of this perk, I think that would be a good thing, especially as it relates to attracting and keeping quality teachers. And the KDE's guidance recently issued some statements on tuition. In part, I quote, "The inability of school districts to charge tuition to students and parents is further supported by the plain language contained in House Bill 563, which states districts shall not discriminate between non-resident pupils. Canceling or reducing tuition is a small way to recruit and retain good teachers. We can't pay our educators like JCPS can, but this is one way to combat that. Competing districts like Bullitt and Shelby, who pay more, don't charge tuition for their teachers' kids to attend schools. And this can be an easy win for the district, especially since no action has been taken over the years in the BR notes. If the district doesn't want to pay or cancel tuition altogether, or because teachers living outside the district don't pay property taxes, I ask that the board accepts the RRI's committee proposal and compromise ahead of the next school year. The proposal reads as follows, and we pitched this in March in our committee. $2,000 per child, $1,000 each additional child, with loyalty discounts of $500 off for every 5 years of service worked in the district, retroactive for teachers it applies to. If this proposal is accepted, it hits on both recruitment and retention, and is something that can be done in short order. You'd be rewarding loyalty while offering a new perk for young teachers starting families. For years, teachers have been asking this, have been told we're looking into it. And like the salaries, you've listened and acted. And action on this matter needs to be taken as well. As a district, let's evolve and just not continue doing the same old thing. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And again, thanks again for listening and acting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
I have a question for you, Ethan.
Yes.
Do you know, since you all worked on this, do you know off the top of your head how many kids we're talking about?
55, I believe, and 41 staff members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Sharon Huberman? Or Huberman?
My concern is a little different. I'm
Ma'am, could you
concerned-
move the mic down a little bit? Thank you.
Okay. My concern is about using ACT scores to benchmark senior requirements, class requirements. I have a student right now that is an upcoming senior, and she did not do very well on the ACT. She is not a standardized test taker. But yet, in the classroom, she's an overachiever. She has very good grades, and she puts in a lot of work to school in her classes. But because she didn't meet the benchmarks, she's being excluded from taking certain classes. And I just don't think that that's very fair for those kids that are not good standardized test takers. The ACT exam is for college entrance. I don't think that they should be used to gear high school level classes. I think that kids are in high school levels should be given a big opportunity of a number of classes to take. But by decreasing the number of classes they can take, it makes them, it oppresses them. They don't have the challenges that they need. And by having to go back and retake classes that are not challenging for her, she's going to get bored. So I just think it's very unfair to make these prerequisites and of using ACT score levels and saying that they can only take classes if they meet the benchmarks. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huberman. I know that Mr. Dodson said this in his opening remarks, but we will have the appropriate district personnel follow up with you, okay?
Chris Mix.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Mix. I'm a physics and chemistry teacher at South Oldham High School. This is my 6th year with the district and my 19th year overall teaching. When I came to Oldham County, I didn't come here to get my child in to Oldham County. I came here because of the reputation it has to be a good place to work. However, if I'd have known that my first year teaching I'd become a single parent, I would have had to turn the job down because of the tuition. I have to be on my son's schedule. I can't afford the extra childcare, but as a single parent, the tuition is untenable too. Because of the tuition, my paycheck today is now finally the same as it was 4 years ago before my son started at Camden Station. He loves it there, but it's as if I've never had a step increase in the 4 years. And with inflation during that time, we're struggling financially to justify staying in the district. Although thank you for the 3%, that helps a lot. This year I've been on the RRI committee to help maintain the reputation that of Oldham County being one of the best places to work around here. But the tuition barrier has been one of the main topics, as Ethan said, since January. We've, proposed a compromise that he mentioned as well. And it's been brought up in the BR concerns several times, with the response being, and I quote, "Some other districts are able to offer lower or free tuition because they aren't as highly sought after as Oldham County schools. If we were to offer free tuition, could the 41 staff members using the benefit double or triple?" And as you know, the non-attendance policies, KDE calls it discriminatory to use tuition. And it is. It discriminates against single parents like me, the teachers who are breadwinners for their families, the newer teachers who are coming in making less than $40,000 a year with college debt and 12.5% of their salary having to go to their pension. They can't afford a house in this district, but paying tuition is out of the question as well. And if we continue to operate like this, I'm worried that we're going to fail to recruit new teachers, to keep the teachers that we have, and to increase the diversity in our schools, which is, a goal that we've had. So I'm hoping that you guys will consider either the proposal that we had as the RRI committee or doing away the tuition to help keep OC being competitive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Mix.
That would be everybody.
Thank you. That concludes public expression. We are going to move along and target 5:30, I think, for our recognitions. Is that correct, ladies? Okay. Let's move along with action item K then, Superintendent.
Sure. Consider approval of policy revision for FY23 as presented in your packet.
All right. These are action items that we have seen before. Are there questions or comments at this time? So your recommendation, sir?
Recommend to approve.
Motion to approve action item K, made by Ms. Nykirk, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor? That's 4-0. Action item L, sir?
Yes, consider approval of FY23 tentative budget.
Yes. Any other questions or concerns? Motion to approve, or recommendation first, Superintendent?
Recommend to approve.
Motion to approve, please, made by Ms. Hundley and seconded by Ms. Nykirk. All those in favor, and that's 4-0. We have action item M.
Yes, consider approval of FY23 school activity funds and daycare budgets.
Yes. Questions or comments? Your recommendation?
Recommend to approve.
Motion to approve action item M, made by Mr. Dodson and seconded by Ms. Hundley. All those in favor, that's 4-0. Thank you all.
Can I go back and just point something out that I think is important to touch on the budget? I think, Stephanie, you drafted up this, what's in our packet. I just want to read part of this because I think it's really important that everyone understand how raises and step increases translate into dollars for our district. And we have had some pushback on the 3% raises that we gave. And I know that our legislatures have, this is what Stephanie has in the report, and I think it's important to be read. Legislators have indicated that they have provided enough funding to provide healthy raises to staff. Our calculations show that the SEEK increase will cover step raises. The district must provide more for our staff, and this budget reflects that. So when legislators say we gave your district a ton of money, you should get big raises off of that, the money that our county received will cover the step increase, not the 3% that we voted on to give to our teachers and staff. So I would continue to push back, and please write our legislators about how the SEEK funding is done and calculated in our state, because our county always ends up on the short end of that stick. And without having a lot of business and industry in our county, it is very easy for Shelby and Bullitt and Jefferson to pay a lot more because they are generating a lot more revenue out of their counties from the businesses that are there. Talk to planning and zoning, ask for some business and industry in our county. I know that people get upset about eating up farmland in our county. Would you rather have a subdivision or a business that provides jobs? And they did not give us a great amount of money to give huge raises to our teachers, or that's exactly what we would have done with it. And I just think it's important. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting that in this report, and I just think it's very important to read that and make people aware of that.
Point well taken. Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Yes, Superintendent.
So, Ms. Hundley, thank you for sharing that. I just want to point out just two things. As if you are, and for our audience members and for everyone and for our board, just a reminder, they're improving, or the state legislature approved the state budget to increase funding $100 per student for SEEK. For our district, $100 per student is not what we receive. The local effort, because it is through the SEEK formula, we have to send the monies that we might receive also really go back to the state to be redistributed. So that is where the SEEK loser conversation comes into play for our school district. So I think in addition to that, we have really advocated really hard with our state legislatures back in the winter and into the spring to really do all that they could to approve a state budget that would support a salary increase. So such as fully fund transportation. I see Mr. Webb here in the audience. That was something that we really hit really hard, advocated really hard, and they did increase funding, but there's 30% of the funding that still has to come out of our general fund. At one time, transportation for all school districts was fully funded at 100%. Right now, it is not that. So there's about 30% that they did not fund. That equates to about $2.5 million, which could have really had such a big impact for our budget and for our staff. So just a quick note to point out.
Thank you, Superintendent. It's a great conversation, and I would also invite anybody who would like to look more closely at the budget to reach out to us, because it's a very challenging budget to balance and to work within. And as a reminder, 87% of our budget goes towards personnel needs. So again, I would just invite individuals who have those particular questions and are still concerned about percentages that were given to staff, et cetera, reach out to us. There's a lot more to this conversation. Action item N, Superintendent.
Yes, consider approval of student waiver of 8-semester requirement.
Any questions or comments? So your recommendation?
Recommend to approve.
Motion to approve made by Ms. Hundley, seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor? That's 4-0. Board members, we have 2 information items. at the end of this agenda, which we need to review. One is the monthly energy report, and one is the report from the preschool. If you will review those. And I think we will take a 5-minute recess to allow families and students time to arrive for the student showcase. Thank you, everybody. back on.
Use Larry's. Here, use mine.
He never uses his. No, you're sharing.
Oh, okay.
All right, we come to an exciting time on our agenda, which is student recognitions. Sometimes we have staff to recognize also, but what a wonderful full house with lots of students to recognize. The superintendent is going to proceed with recognitions, and Ms. Nykirk is going to assist. Let's roll.
Good evening. Good to see everyone. Thank you for being here. We want to recognize the following outstanding students.
Well, here's one that is working. Musical mics tonight.
Wouldn't be fitting without having a few technical difficulties. So thank you again for being here. Students, we certainly want to celebrate and recognize many of our students tonight for different reasons. And what we'll do is I'll call your name, and as I do, please come forward and we will have a certificate and we'll take a group photo. So first, I want to recognize students who have been recognized for the Gatton Academy. 4 students have been accepted to the Gatton Academy of Mathematics and Science. These students will spend their junior and senior years at Western Kentucky University taking college STEM courses. They will finish high school with over 60 hours of college credit. So the Gatton Academy class of 2024 from Oldham County High School, Melanie Stewart, Jordan Wonka, Lincoln Potts. So students, if you'll stay here just for a moment, and from South Oldham High School, we have Sophie Nadinger.
Awesome. Good job, you guys.
Next, we want to recognize students selected for the Craft Academy. 4 students have been accepted to the Craft Academy for excellence in science and mathematics. These students will spend their junior and senior years at Morehead State University taking college STEM courses. They will finish high school with over 60 hours of college credit. So if you notice or recognize, there's the Gatton Academy at WKU, and then there's the Craft Academy at Morehead State. Some of our students have some decisions to make. You'll hear some familiar names here in just a moment. For the Craft Academy class of 2024 from Oldham County High School, Melanie Stewart and Lincoln Potts. And from North Oldham High School, Freya Eisenhart. And Laurel Patterson.
Good job, guys.
Okay, next we'll move to the 2022 Governor's Scholars Program. 32 students have been accepted to the Governor's Scholar Program. These exceptional students were selected after a rigorous application and selection process which factors in grades, test scores, community service, extracurricular activities, and a bevy of other criteria. These scholars will spend 5 weeks living on one of 3 college campuses and will participate in classes and activities while cultivating their leadership skills. First, we have from North Oldham High School, Megan Matthew. Caitlin Stewart. Kassim Hyder. Daniel Ayubnil. And Danish Usmani. And as an alternate, that's Emery Eccleberry. So if you all remain standing just for a few more minutes. From Oldham County High School, we have McKenna Carter. Heather Denning. Andrew Fisher. Sarah Freeland. Samantha Freeland. Margaret Kaiser. Chloe Park. Audrey Roberts. Elizabeth Sheets. Josephine Sal. Tucker Payne. Braddock Reed. And as alternates, Reagan Evans. Clarissa Solorio. Isaac Payne. Okay, I'm almost through my list. You'll stay just a few more minutes, a few more moments. From South Oldham High School, Mary Dudgeon. Allie Hargrove. Adele Miner. Priyanka Patel. Lauren Potts. Emily Richardson. Hannah Richardson. Kiari Cessno. Caden Kadima. Ty Clayton. And Hunter Cody.
Wow.
And next we have Colin Bouchard, instrumental music and woodwinds. Next, from Oldham County High School, we have Isabel Blevins for drama. Next, we have Vasilia Bukis for vocal music. Alexis Brown for dance. Isabella Dape for music, vocal music. Next, we have Joseph Dennis for instrumental music and woodwinds. Next, we have May Holton for visual art. Next, we have Roy McIntyre for instrumental music and brass. Isaac Payne for instrumental music and brass. Broderick Reed, instrumental music and strings. Next, we have Cora Birchmeyer for visual art. And next, we have Bradick Reed for vocal music. Next, I want to recognize the students from South Oldham High School, Dylan Bond for instrumental music and strings. Sierra Connor for drama. Abigail Legg for dance. Hannah Legg for vocal music. Owen Rarick for visual arts. Camille Sassy for visual art. Lainey Van Vliet for visual art. And Vivian Thompson for visual art. We'll get a quick picture.
I don't want to be in this picture.
Okay, next we have the 2022 Governor's School for Entrepreneurs. 6 students have been accepted to the Governor's School for Entrepreneurs. During the program, teams will develop a business model, design a prototype, and pitch their business idea to a panel of judges. We have a few students we want to recognize. First, from Oldham County High School is Avery Leverett. From North Oldham High School, we have Sonia Ajamani. Next, we have Freya Eisenhart. Next, we have Ali Kashif. Darsh Shah. And Martha Tony.
Good job, you guys.
Just a quick note, recognize that we have many talented students, as you heard, several students whose names were called more than once, and all of our students for Governor's Scholar who were selected. Just congratulations to each of you. Certainly just shows to the hard work and what talent that we have across our school district. Next, we want to recognize our Commonwealth Honors Academy. 3 students have been accepted to the Commonwealth Honors Academy this summer. During the program, students will live and learn on Murray State University's campus while receiving 6 hours of college credit. From Oldham County High School, we have 3 students. Evan Brown, Tabitha Crane, and Lexi Pace.
Good job, Lexi.
Okay, next we have our state STLP championship. Several students placed at the Kentucky Department of Education Student Technology Leadership Program State Championship. From Oldham County Middle School, we have Sophia Mariska, second place, digital art. Next, we have from South Oldham High School, Ava Chardin, first place, digital art. Next, we have Grayson Clare, second place, book trailer. And from Crestwood Elementary, we have a first place team that did a podcast, and those students are Henry Chandler. Luke Calvert. Colby Jarnigan. And Peter Snyder.
Good job, podcast team. Oh, I don't want to be in this picture. Good job.
Okay, our last recognition for this evening, a team of 3 students for state FBLA representing the Arvin Education Center placed second at the State Future Business Leaders of America Conference and will be competing at the national conference this summer. I want to recognize these 3 students: Abby Lance, Antonio Maresca, Anastasia Penaretos.
Uh-huh.
So that concludes our awards and recognitions for our students. Please join me in making one more big round of applause for all of our students and their recognitions. And thank you all very much for attending and being here this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you will stay with us for about one more minute, we have a quick little item of business, and then we are going into executive session. So it would be easier if you stay with me for another minute or two. Mrs. Hundley's going to read our policy for going into executive session.
At this time, the board needs to go into executive session to discuss the following matters: 2 litigation matters pertaining to student injuries, 2 special education matters, 2 employment claims matters, and 1 Title IX complaint. The board needs to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss litigation preparation, the public disclosure of which would jeopardize the board's position.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. So I need a motion to go into executive session. Motion made by Ms. Hundley and seconded by Mr. Dodson. All those in favor? That's 4-0, and we are recessed. Thank you, everybody.